Nominated to be the next head of the CIA. The president saying that earlier she will be the CIA's first ever female director. He went on to say a historic milestone, end quote. Utah Congressman Jason Chaffetz, former congressman, with me live in Salt Lake City. And sir, good day to you. Brought you on to talk about something entirely different, but you spent a lot of time with Mike Pompeo. Tell us what we need to know and understand about him in this elevation, potentially.
Well, he's a wonderful human being, a very jovial, very happy person, but wicked smart. I think the leadership there in the House recognized very quickly his talents. I graduated #1 in his class at West Point, went right away onto the House Intelligence Committee, and somebody who was beloved by the people who he worked with. And the relationship with the president that he has is probably second to none. And I got to tell you, there's a lot of people on Capitol Hill that are very thrilled with this pick. Whatever role that he goes into, I think you'll see broad consensus, broad support from him, both in the Senate and the House.
What do you think of the churn that we're seeing in the administration now? Look, if you do these jobs for a year, it seems to be standard practice for previous administrations. But this is this happening 14 months in. Just go ahead and characterize it as you see it from Utah.
Well, I think when you have one of the most senior, most important roles that you have to have the confidence of the president. And what Mike Pompeo brings to the table that almost nobody else does is this daily relationship and this confidence in this person to execute. And so I think as the world looks at this and starts to digest it, they're going to understand when Mike Pompeo shows up on the scene or is having a conversation in private, it is going to be a representation of the President of the United States. He is a very smart person in terms of management. If you remember, when President Trump became President Trump, one of the most strained relationships was with the CIA and the clandestine services. And Mike Pompeo, over the course of the year, has smoothed that out. And I think that has to happen within the State Department as well, particularly in South Korea. We have to have an ambassador in South Korea. And when I went to South Korea last, that was one of their top complaints. Who is it that's representing the United States in such a critical component there in South Korea?
It was the day after the inauguration. I guess you consider this the first full day on the job as president, where President Trump went to the CIA in Washington, D.C., or out across from the river there, and made his first appearance. Gina Haspel, do you know her? How well do you know her?
I only know her by reputation, and it's a strong one. I mean, she's a career person who has risen the ranks within the organization itself, but she's one of those people behind the scenes that I think has earned the confidence of the men and women who serve there, but also up on Capitol Hill in her presence. It's a big step for a president to name a new CIA director, and he obviously has the confidence in her.
Where do you think it went wrong with Tillerson and the president? Or is it a case of never really being right or connected, as two people would?
Rex Tillerson is immensely qualified and a good representative. He's been awfully successful in every job that he's been to. And by all accounts, I think by most accounts, what's happening overseas for the president has been a really strong thing. But when you don't have the daily interaction with a new president, somebody who doesn't come from the history of being in Washington, D.C., you've got an outside businessman who's suddenly thrust into this role. He's getting new information, new intelligence that he hadn't had before. When you have a Secretary of State whose job it is to be essentially on the road communicating with countries across the globe, that relationship really isn't solidified like, say, a Mike Pompeo with Donald Trump.
Once again, I think this solidifies what's happening within this government and this administration. These are Donald Trump's decisions, and his staff are living by his decisions every hour of every day. Last comment on that, Jason, we're going to run.
No, I think the Senate needs to confirm Mike Pompeo and get this done in place. They confirmed him before, but they need to get him in place, particularly with these pending talks with North Korea.
Thank you, sir, for your time. See you back in New York real soon. Jason Chaffetz, former congressman there, back home in Utah. Thank you.